This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Drink? Now, shall we begin? Welcome to the History Book Club podcast, but for today, as usual, it's on a monthly basis do a film, and if you're watching on Spotify, you'll see my hat, which might give a clue. Also, you'll know what it is because you've read the description, but it is Master and Commander. And so we have our usual guests, Roger Morehouse, author of U-Boat, so he'll know about maritime things. And Tim Hewitt, who's a film director, so he knows all about that stuff. And then Antonia Senior has joined for the first time on the Film Club. Very, very exciting, because Antonia is an expert on Patrick O'Brian, who is the author of the series of novels on which this film, or I think his film is based on 2 novels, but she's read them all and loves the film too. So Antonia, welcome. You are very welcome.
Thanks, Ollie. Lovely to be here.
Right, so this is Master and Commander. So as usual, I'll run through a few basics for the listeners, just so they know if they aren't familiar with it. I watched it on Disney Plus, so it's available there. But there is a 4K version that's just come out, which I've got my eyes on actually. But this is directed by Peter Weir. Screenplay is Peter Weir and John Colley. It undoubtedly stars Russell Crowe and Paul Bettany as well. And so it came out in 2003. And so what's interesting is that it's just a spoiler alert. We do love the film. So much so that I'm wearing a hat to prove it. And the film, when it arrived, I thought it was incredible. But there are rumors that it didn't do as well as it could have done. It cost $211 million to make, and it made $150 million. No, I've got that the wrong way around.
Other way around, yeah.
It cost $150 million to make, yes, and made 211, which to me seems like a success. But maybe in this world of Hollywood now, you need to sort of double your money. But so those are the basics. It's got a sterling cast of actors that you'd recognise in British TV shows and films. So I'll mention them as we talk through the film. But I guess, Antonia, I wanted to ask you first because, I mean, I have read HMS Surprise.
Okay.
And I think this is based on 2 novels.
Well, it's very, very loosely based on The Far Side of the World, which I think is the 10th, I can't remember, 13th maybe. But it's very loosely based because actually in The Far Side of the World, they are going to chase a ship that's attacking whalers, but it's an American ship. They're chasing an American ship. It's during the war against the Americans in 1812. Obviously, you're not going to do that for an American audience. It makes much more sense to move the action back 7 years. They pretend it's in 1805. So it's kind of loosely based on that. Some of the stuff, it's basically a kind of greatest hits of various things. So bits of it are from HMS Surprise, bits of it from Master and Commander. Bits of it are, from various other books. Some of the
like little tricks he does to sort of fool the dastardly French.
Yeah, I mean, we need to talk about that trick at some point when we come to talk about historical accuracy, because that's slightly problematic. But
it's piracy, basically, isn't it?
What, privateers?
No, the thing with the when you pretend to be, is that not piracy?
All fares in love or war, Roger.
It's a legitimate ruse. It's a legitimate ruse de guerre, but you'll notice in the film, just before they start firing at the Acheron, they raise their colours. So you can the traditional naval practice at the time was you could use subterfuge and pretend to be someone else, but you had to run up your own colours. You could do it literally half a second before your first gun fires. I mean, it's all slight nonsense.
And then it's okay, right? Yeah.
The thing that was slightly stupid in the film was the pretense that Stephen had invented this by looking at a stick insect. I mean, the idea that you could disguise yourself as an alternative kind of ship, a ruse de guerre, had been common practice in naval warfare for like decades before that. I understand why they needed to do it, because they needed it for the film's kind of arc, whatever, but it was a bit silly. That's the only bit of the book, only bit of the film that is slightly annoying. But because ruse de guerres are a thing, right? They existed forever. But it's not piracy, Roger, when it's the English doing it, and when
I'm really upset that, Roger, you would even think that this is piracy.
Pirates just admit they're pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to steal.
And also, by the way, when they arrive on the French ship, and the French, most cowardly fashion, lying there pretending to be dead, I think that was absolutely outrageous.
Outrageous,
not sportsmanship at all.
But they're very, very French. Very French.
And the French captain gave him his sword. And at the point that you give someone your sword, you're effectively giving you're on parole.
Yes. Well,
you're
on
a bound.
We need to deal with this at the end, because I've got many questions about the end. So let's
Can we just skip straight to the French bashing?
Yeah.
No, that will be throughout the
right, okay.
Skip to most unlikely scene.
So there is a massive looming presence over the whole film, which is Russell Crowe. And
Russell Crowe.
I have to say, the accent does slip a few times. G'day,
very
mate.
much. His actual, actually, the sound that he hasn't mastered yet, it's very particular. It's always in words time, like, it's just a little bit time. It's a little bit Australian when the rest of his accent, actually, I think is quite good.
Yeah, I thought it was generally
now
good.
And then,
but you did notice a couple of slips, but it didn't spoil it. I have to say, it didn't spoil it.
Fine. But it's just him striding across the deck. I don't know how similar the Russell Crowe Aubrey is to the Aubrey of the novels, because he's a sort of massive presence. I mean, he's quite squat and wide anyway, Russell Crowe, isn't he? Particularly nowadays. But when you see him sort of storm across the deck, he really
owns a fine figure of a man, I would have thought you'd say there, Ollie, surely.
Jack Aubrey is a fine figure of a man. I mean, the casting was initially of great concern to me, because, as I say, these books are very precious to me, and Jack Aubrey and Stephen Maturin live in my head more than, people I've actually met in real life. And I was very nervous, because obviously he was, Russell Crowe, like, he's a massive Hollywood star. Like, Jack Aubrey is precious to me, so I was concerned. But actually, I think he's completely brilliant as Jack Aubrey. Jack is supposed to have massive physical presence. He's supposed to be able to, at one moment he's sort of crying, laughing over a really weak pun, and the next minute he's like a stern disciplinarian whose men really follow him. He's a leader. And he's good-humoured, and he's kind of dynamic, and very flawed. I mean, you don't get much of the flaw in this book, in this film, because it's quite, it's a short moment in his career. But yeah, I think the Jack Aubrey of the novels is very faithfully represented by the Australian superstar, actually, much to my astonishment and delight, really.
And I was trying to find who they'd looked at, if there was anyone else they looked at, because I couldn't really, I didn't uncover any other. So maybe it just landed on Russell Crowe and that was it. And because Peter Weir's Australian, of course, so maybe that's why
Well, Russell Crowe was he just burgeoned into a star. Now, I'd have to preface this by saying I'm probably the person here. I think it's a really good film, but I don't love it as much as you three. Which you need someone like me on this podcast.
Do we though?
To start it?
Right. Well, like a Frenchman.
Yes, I'm a spy. But he the thing is I think, firstly, let's get out of the way. I think Peter Weir has never made a bad film in his entire career. I think he's brilliant. I love him.
He's got a brilliant list behind him, hasn't he?
He's
The Bounty,
one of the greatest
which is
directors.
another sort of
except he didn't do that.
Didn't he?
No.
Oh.
We did The Bounty, remember, on the previous podcast.
On another podcast. Yeah. So if there are
in another place,
any refugees from the Aspects of History podcast.
But apart from Peter Weir, I think he handles it brilliantly. All at sea. I think the whole thing was actually filmed at sea, which is the rule of thumb. Don't work with children, animals, and shoot on the open ocean. And there are 2 of those in this. 3? No, all 3 really, actually. Yeah. But I think
I read there were only 10 days that they shot at sea, and the rest was in a big.
I mean, at the exterior
in Mexico.
Yeah, in a big pond.
Right. So
with a massive gimbal.
So listeners are getting a lot of information fired at them there. So what was Tim? Where was it filmed?
I think the exteriors obviously were the all the wide shots, and a lot of the vistas that they're all, it's not faked. I think the all the closer details and stuff. Obviously, the below deck is not going to be shot at sea, but he did a lot of the stuff for real. Which is pretty challenging, I think. But the Russell Crowe angle, I think that he become probably one of the biggest stars at that point. I don't think he's ever been better than his casting in LA Confidential. I think it's the quintessential Russell Crowe perfect part for him. Yes, he was great in Gladiator. I think he absolutely, you can't really think of anyone else. But I just can't help but think that with this film, it really was a star vehicle. I can see it being pitched in Hollywood,
Burbank,
in Burbank, in like the film like The Player, where they're all pitching 25 words or less. It's British naval film, and I want Russell Crowe. I want it. I know. I think I can get it. It's like it's really, really perfect for his rising star power. And I sometimes can't get past seeing it's Russell Crowe, and his career is going. He's on fire. And certain things that I just don't buy him as a violinist. Sorry, I can't help it. For me, someone who looks like he's a rugby player in his spare time. I don't think he did study the violin. But that's Russell Crowe. I'm talking about Russell Crowe. So I think maybe an Anthony Hopkins in The Bounty, he'd certainly play the violin because he's like a headmaster. Whereas, but I'm sure that he does. Does he play the violin in the books?
He plays the violin in the book, and it's specifically for that reason that it works if you love the book. And so I guess this is one of the reasons why people who love the books are kind of have a special relationship with the film, because of things like the whole, when Jack and Stephen first meet, the whole point is that this large, florid, kind of slightly sort of, enormous rugby player looking captain, they meet at a concert in Menorca, and it's astonishing to Stephen Maturin that the guy is beating time in time, and then they almost have a duel over like music right at the beginning, and that music is the cement of their relationship. And the fact that he plays a violin with kind of delicacy and brilliance is part of what makes the character kind of rich because of that incongruity. So actually,
I can see that would be so. As a viewer,
Yeah.
that if for me, if there were a way of it's sort of incorporating that and making his character a little, because you've got a finite time in film as opposed to a series of books where you've got they think, oh well, let's just put this in just to make it a little bit more human, and something that's not necessarily to do with his ferocious career as a in battle and a leader of men, make him a little bit more tender. It was nice. It's a nice touch, but I didn't buy it 100% because as I say, his persona kind of shines through for me,
Perhaps.
Russell Crowe.
And does he
But
play the
perhaps that's
violin like a
partly-
guitar in the books?
No.
Like at the end.
Although they
Yeah, I wasn't sure about
occasionally
that.
do kind of like little piccato things, but probably not like a guitar. But I would say that, I mean, it is possible because, obviously we'll talk about the whole issue of kind of translating a book to film. And normally the problem with when you go from a book to a film, the problem is that the book is so traduced that the film is, the film is good, but the people who love the book get cross. Perhaps one of the reasons this film didn't do as brilliantly as people were hoping was because it was so good for the readers of the books, right? That we all approached it with trepidation and ended up falling in love with it. Perhaps is why, there were bits of it which weren't, on point for film goers who didn't have that tradition with the book, didn't have the shorthand.
Of course. As you can equate it, like I think, to things like Jack Reacher, who the Reacher author, the readership, were outraged that
By Tom
Cruise was going to play it because he's short, he's a superstar, he's not Jack Reacher. Now I've never read the books, but I thought the first Jack Reacher was awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
But then you see the guy on TV and you're like, oh right, I see. He's massive. So I can
he's only
understand
actually. So I can just have to correct you there. The guy on the TV, whatever his name is, someone knows his name. He's only actually 6'2".
Okay, sorry.
Which is
Really?
the height that I am. So
I'm 6'3", so I'm taller.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Roger
Yeah, but-
Reacher.
Guys, have you seen him with his shirt off though? I mean, all credit
All
to
right,
you all.
come
Have you
on.
seen me? Have you seen me with my shirt off?
That's true.
But I think
Anyway.
it's relatively formulaic in its script.
Yeah, the
Master
plot
and
for
Commander,
the
I would say.
listeners. I was going to do. I should have
Yes,
mentioned.
do the plot.
Basically,
Do the plot, Ollie.
Well, basically, HMS Surprise, under the captaincy of Jack Aubrey, has been given the mission to capture the Acheron, which is this French ship that's behaving really badly along the east coast of the Americas and bullying other ships and capturing them and stuff like that. And basically, he exceeds his orders because the Acheron's a bit too quick, and manages to get round the Cape Horn and head up into the Pacific. And so he carries on up there. They get to the Galapagos there, have a wander around there, very impressed by all the animals there. And then they find the Acheron, and then they have a final showdown with the ship, the French ship, which is much bigger, quicker, but due to British seamanship and
cheating.
glorious. Sorry,
And cheating.
Roger. Come on. No, it's just extreme cunning.
Yeah.
Cunning,
The
yes, cunning.
French cheat. The British
Yes.
use.
Oh
cunning.
yeah, the cunning. Yes.
The
yes.
English vessel manages to overcome. I don't know. It's a spoiler alert, but it's obvious. Overcome the French. And but then there's a sort of question mark at the end, which we'll discuss. But
Yeah.
what I wanted to Jack Maturin, not Jack
Stephen.
Maturin, yes, Stephen Maturin, who is a fascinating character in the novel I read, and there are, I think, because I was reading this, Christopher Hitchens obviously is attracted to the Stephen Maturin character, and I can see why. But there's a kind of, he's Irish. And he has this kind of, and in the film, Bettany's really good at showing how he's a sort of cerebral character who's almost the opposite to 98% of the people who are surrounding him. So he's kind of a loner on the ship, but I wondered if you thought that it was well portrayed, because there are elements of his kind of. There was one moment where he talks about informants, and it did make me laugh out loud. And maybe I can talk about that a little bit more. But Antonia, what did you think of Bettany's portrayal of this character?
Yeah, so he's physically all wrong, like Jack Reacher. So Maturan is very small, very sort of ill-formed. He's kind of he's quite pale. He's got these like odd eyes. So Bethany looks all wrong because I mean Paul Bettany's Paul Bettany. But otherwise he's really good actually. He gets Stephen's kind of, yeah, as you said, the cerebralness, the relation. So there's 20 novels in this series, and the relationship between Jack and Stephen is the absolute heart and core of the novels and why they're so successful and why they're so beloved. And they're two very different characters, arguably kind of, different facets of. Some people argue that, Patrick O'Brian wanted to be Jack Aubrey, but knew he was more Stephen Maturan, cerebral, whatever. In the novels, he's actually also an incredibly brave spy, which doesn't come out in this book so much. So yeah, but yeah, I mean,
tell us a little bit about that
really
then, Antonia, particularly because spying is a area of expertise for you.
Yeah, so Stephen Maturan is so his origins, he spent a lot of time in Catalonia as a child, and then he gets caught up in the Irish Wolf Tone rebellions in the 18th century. And then when he comes across Jack, he's sort of penniless and he doesn't know what to do with his life. And Jack takes him on board the Navy ship as a doctor. Stephen's a doctor, obviously. And they start forming this friendship, even though Stephen is an egalitarian. He believes that the French Revolution started well and was betrayed by Bonaparte. And he's passionate about Catalan independence and defeating Bonaparte. So he ends up basically becoming a spy. And a lot of their adventures over the course of the novels actually end up being more about Stephen trying to get to grips with French intelligence and at some points American intelligence. And at one point he gets captured by the French and horribly tortured. So yeah, he's a fascinating character in his own right all the way through the books. In this film, obviously he's a little bit more of a foil to Jack rather than necessarily a massive character in his own right. But what you do see of him is kind of really good. He's a naturalist. He's
Where does he stand on the
character.
Act of Union between England and Ireland, which happens, I think it's effective January 1801. So
1801.
right round, yeah.
His main concern by then is just the kind of is survive. He's kind of pro-Irish independence, but he's been so brutalized by the experience of the revolutionaries eating themselves. So there's one amazing. So in one of the novels, there's a fellow Irishman on board one of the ships, and they pretend not to know each other because they both as youths been part of this rebellion, and it had all collapsed and collapsed because of informants. So that's one of the reasons why Stephen is so. This is one of those little eggs for people who love the books. That in the film there's a brief mention of Stephen going, "Oh, I hate an informant," and you're like, "Well, yeah." In the novels, the whole part of Stephen's whole thing is how much he hates informants. So he's constantly, whenever he's serving on a ship with Jack, he absolutely refuses to tell Jack anything that's going on that that would below decks that Jack could where he could be considered to be informing on his colleagues and all of that. So yeah, he's a fascinating and very complex character. Yeah, which is I think part of Stephen's problem and disillusionment. Of course, Patrick O'Brien's an Irishman, or well, half an Irishman, sort of fake Irishman.
Yeah. And right, so I wanted to talk about some of the casting because some of the other casting, because there's some really fantastic actors in this. Unless Roger, you have any? You've been very quiet.
I've been listening to Antonia's brilliance on. I mean, fantastic knowledge on all of this.
Well, she used the word incongruity, which is an
I
upstep
know.
for us.
It is. It's a step up for us. We're going into a
Yeah,
different
yeah,
level
we're
now.
not quite in her league,
We're
but
using big words now.
yeah.
No, I really enjoyed it. I think what struck me, I suppose, and I should caveat this by saying I know, I'm no expert on Napoleonic naval warfare at all, but it did strike me that this had a tremendous, more than a whiff of authenticity to it, in terms of the way they spoke to each other, the way
Yes, Roger.
very
Yes.
often the sort of conversations that are going on in the background that you don't necessarily hear, but they if you tune into them, it all sounded like exactly as you'd think, and there's sort of archaic sort of phrasing and so on that that is how they would have spoken, and a lot of the sort of technical language is being used and so on, very naval, and just the all of that
And
gave me,
procedure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
I,
gave me a tremendous, and actually as well, even when the film was doing it had a couple of little moments where it was a bit expositional, right? Where it had to tell you what the backstory was, but it did it in a really elegant way. It did it sort of in a conversation, like for example, I mean, they used the Stephen Maturin character for that a couple of times, where he says, "Oh, I don't know," I think they're talking about
In
the
the weather
construction of
gauge.
the ship, yeah, and he says, "Oh, I don't know what's that mean?" Like, I'd say he's almost like the viewer, and they use him. I don't know,
it
maybe that's
wasn't quite as clumsily done as things are normally done in
no,
films.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
point. So it's
that's
really,
true.
so even the expositional bits, I thought were done really well. But what I did love absolutely was the authenticity. And one note that I made was obviously, I've said this before on war films, like everyone's dirty, obviously, they're filthy. But one thing I noticed on this is they've all got scars on their faces. They've got scars everywhere. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Like even Russell Crowe, half his ear is missing. If you have a look, so he's
Oh, well
obviously got
spotted.
some.
I didn't see
Yeah,
that
so
because
half his
James
earlobe
Darcy
is
was
is
was
completely kind of mangled, and they all had scarring all over them. So, which of course you would have. I mean, even if it wasn't warfare, it would have been a block and tackle hitting you in the face or something like that. So I thought things like that really yeah, and right from the off as well. Right from the first scene. Where I think where he comes up to the watch officer and he says which away or something. He uses a phrase. He says which away, like what direction is it? And again, you know kind of straight away you're in safe hands, that this that they've actually thought about this. It's not going to be a kind of an anachronistic nightmare. So I
Can I,
was really impressed with all of that stuff.
can I just pick up briefly on that? Do you mind?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
um, one of the big things for people who've read the book, sorry, is that the plot of this film is absolute nonsense, right? Patrick
Okay.
O'Brien wouldn't have done it, wouldn't have written anything so fucking. Sorry, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah, of course, you can swear. Actually, I mean, there isn't really a plot either, is
No.
there?
So the plot is just it's just stupid, right? But what everybody loves and what I love is exactly what Roger was saying, the authenticity, the sounds, the sort of the way, the sense of being on that ship. It's a bit like I watched on the back of Roger's brilliant book, Wolfpack, I rewatched Das Boot. It's Das Boot. I can't do it the way Roger was just to say it. But it's the same sort of thing where you just get the atmosphere of these men in this terrible environment and how terrible it would be to be under fire. The extraordinary kind of way they just slowly, moment by moment, build up that sense of being aboard. The dinners where they're all pissed and laughing and, all of this stuff, this kind of sense. So what, it's world building that is so brilliant in the book, and it's world building that's so brilliant in the film. And I think that's why I absolutely adore it, despite the ropey plot and the other couple of niggles that we have. You can't imagine watching anything that brings it all to life better. And I've listened to some very geeky podcasts from the kind of historical advisors on it and everything about how hard they work to try and get it all right. And hats off to them.
I was going to draw
Yeah, I
parallels
agree.
actually to Das Boot as well, because I remember when we did Das Boot on our on a podcast far away a long time ago.
Did Roger keep telling you he
and-
was saying boot wrong?
Yes.
Yes.
Then the best thing is when he would say it, we'd all roll our eyes. Uh, but it's true, the authenticity, because that's one of the things that I really got when I first saw it. I remember seeing it for the very first time, and thinking they all this is real.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're saying, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And the griminess, the like Das Boot, the fact that the reality of how gross it must have been. Actually, if you think about bathroom breaks, luckily they don't show that sort of thing.
Yeah,
but,
where's the privy?
You can imagine
the head.
What was that, Ollie?
The head.
Well, the men just lean out the back.
Yeah, at the back of the ship.
Yeah, but there's a bit where they're all vomiting.
And also just the logistics of things, like when they're under attack, and when I remember in the beginning, obviously when they're trying to cover there's water pouring in, and of course you've got to think there must just imagine actually this is a question for Antonia. When they were under attack and holes, there were holes in the stern, wherever it is, and water's rushing in. Does that water must become a bit?
Yeah,
disgusting.
It's rancid. It's horrible. It's completely rancid, and they have to pump it out, and then they have to do like running repairs on the ship where they kind of press sails against the holes.
They showed that. It was brilliant.
Yeah. So all of that is just amazingly sort of rendered.
Also, the carpentry whilst at sea, I loved all that. Fixing the ship up.
Although I mean. That was one slight.
No, don't ruin this for me.
No, what Jack? Listen, I'm telling you what Jack would do in that scenario is he wouldn't just do it at sea. He would find an island. He would take the ship into the island. He'd hoist the cannons either side of the bay to protect it from any visitors, and he would careen the ship. He'd refit the ship in an island environment. He wouldn't do it at sea. It would be impossible. Because how do you fix those holes properly?
But they did appear in a sort of...
But I was going to say, that very point, Antonia, became a point of the plot as well, because they said after the first attack, we have to go ashore and we have to sort it out properly. And he says, no, we're going to do it at sea because we're going to get this guy. Yeah, so that becomes part of the plot that he doesn't do that in a way. Yeah.
I mean, you could do some, fixing at sea, but I think, Jack constantly in the books is finding little coves, deserted islands, and doing the ship ashore.
They needed, I guess, to keep the film kinetic. It's like it's the aquatic version.
Yeah, they're not stopped for a month and refit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and then they have to stop when they take Stephen ashore. So they did it twice. I mean, you can see why they do these things.
And when they arrive at the Brazilian town with the did immediately remind me of the Bounty, and you kind of
very much.
The
only thing that they
you see exotic natives showing up at a British warship. It normally doesn't.
And a woman. There's a woman.
But they fixed the Bounty by having Russell Crowe glance at one of the ladies a few times.
The Fletcher Christian in him. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Bligh would never have done that.
Jack loves a wench, though. Jack loves a lady. He's a bad boy. Yeah,
right.
He does.
Well, okay.
Can I ask, going just very quickly about the sort of technical thing? What people's opinion, or actually not necessarily opinion, but Antonia, the reality of the scene when actually the guy who I think is really good, Brian Dick, comes in with his mate with a model.
Oh yeah, it's very good.
Of the Acheron, and goes, I saw this in Boston and I replicated it from memory.
I've knocked it up in matchsticks.
Yeah, but that's not
a really good model.
Well, no, he's a carpenter's mate. His job is carpenter's mate.
But that's not in any of the books. That's
really?
Nonsense. Yeah.
And for what's his chops, Aubrey, to go, this is extra rum, and this is how we're gonna get it.
Yeah, no, sorry, that's all nonsense.
Well, it doesn't actually.
The only thing that it has some resemblance to is in the real. So in 1812, in the real war against the American Navy, the American frigates were a lot heavier and better built than ours, and we went into the American naval war assuming, because we were the British, that we would just, smash the upstart Yankees. And all the first encounters of that war, actually the British lost and the Americans won, because they had these heavy frigates. So it has a connection to the real story, but all the stuff with them building the model and Russell Crowe going, aha, with this particular ship I'm going to, no, that's all nonsense. But we forgive him because he gave them rum, and then there
are a few, let's call this screenwriting devices, where they put in certain strategic points in the film things that are going to either advance the plot or set up that's what's called setup, a something that can plant a plot device. And it's a giveaway is always something that has nothing to do with what their mission is. So when a naturalist talks about insects disguising themselves, a hardened screenwriter is going to go, aha, I see this is disguise. Gotcha. Where and also I couldn't help but I remember the first time I saw it, when he's on the island, when Bettany is walking and he finds the beetle, and there's this great shot where the background is all blurred. I think, cinephiles will go, he's going to see the freaking French ship, isn't he? And there it is.
Yeah, but it's very well done, that bit, I thought. It's
nice. It's cinematically very, very lovely to watch. But as they're sort of slightly cliched.
Yeah.
So
cinematic
Tim,
devices, I would
what
say.
Makes me quite happy is every time you're pointing out something that's a bit cliched and shit, it wasn't in the books. That's the bit they've put in.
Interesting.
That's probably the executives going, come on, we can't. This is too literary. We need something visual. God, come on. But it's these are sort of niggles. They're just because cinematically it's a great piece of visual filmmaking. And
it really is. It really is visually very, very strong.
I love the Peter Weir's decision, and his cinematographer, to mute. It's quite a muted look. I love the fact that even on clear days, the sky is quite grey and white, even though it's not actually overcast, because you'll notice that sometimes it'll just turn and you'll see some blue sky suddenly. But I really like that kind of, it's really washed out, which lends itself to that, for some reason, to that period. I don't know why. But the whole, I think that the look of you talk about production design as well. The ship is amazing.
Yeah, costume, ship.
The ship is amazing.
I have a question very quickly, because I'm just looking at your hat. What's the meaning of the one wears it that way, one wears it that way?
I
must
can
be rank.
That. No, it's not rank. It's fashion. So, this is according to O'Brien. All my naval expertise is a bit like everything I know about Japanese samurai I get from James Clavell. Everything I know about the Navy I get from. So apologies to any proper historians out there, but Patrick O'Brien's explanation for the hat thing is that Jack represents an old school officer of the Navy who's less professional, a bit more buccaneering, and he wears his hat athwart ships. Pulling, his first lieutenant, represents a newer breed of naval officer who's a bit more professional, and the younger ones like to wear theirs fore and aft. So it's a kind of, uniforms were relatively new for the Navy at this point as well. So there was some leeway, and quite often they didn't really, wear them on a day-to-day basis. They'd kind of be wearing old sloppy stuff because it's a difficult and grimy world that they're living in. So when they get dressed up, that's a matter of choice.
Fore and aft. I was just so good.
Very good. Athwart ships was even better. I was swooning at that. That was fantastic.
Yeah, well, I will just say on the ship. So I love these books so much that when I was in my 20s, I did a couple of voyages on tall ships so I could find out what it was like to climb the rigging like Jack Aubrey.
Yeah.
And there's some brilliant scenes where Jack and Stephen, well, it's not Stephen, it's Jack's like standing at the top of the mainmast, just holding on like that as they swoop across the sea. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, just amazing. I mean, it's when I did it, I was much more terrified than that, because when you go to the top of the mast, the sway, even in sort of calm seas,
What's it? Could you remember what it's called? Because it's mentioned a few times. Is something? Is it mizzen something?
Well, no,
Mizzen-top.
that.
Was it
Yeah,
mizzen-top?
so where he's standing at the end, he's up by the royals, so that the ones at the top are the royals, then the togallants.
That's
But
mentioned.
one
Yeah.
thing but although real Jack Aubrey purists, oh my god, this is so geeky, I apologize. There's a bit right where he's like, right, we have to go really fast, we have to put all the sails on, so he puts all the sails on. But real aficionados will know that Aubrey never ever puts all his sails up, because he thinks that if you put the royals up, it presses you down at the front of the ship and you go slower. So that's a conceit.
Interesting.
Sorry, that's super
No,
geek.
good stuff.
Very,
We did
very
actually. A
nerdy.
listener did suggest a long-term listener who's very dear to the show did suggest that another naval historian, I think very well respected
Kate
one,
Jameson.
Katie Jameson. Yes, but unfortunately the screen can only fit 4 people on, so we.
Well, she would have been much better than me, because she actually really knows her stuff, whereas, as I say, I'm a fake. But
Well,
I
I
do
think-
love the books.
I think we could probably do this again another time, like a re-up. But I wanted to mention a couple of other things before we do our categories, because we're 45 minutes in already. And
Blimey.
so I thought the Doommonger, the guy who's been
Joe
had his
Place, hold
life saved-
fast.
Yeah, hold fast guy.
Hold fast.
Very
yeah.
annoying. Very just enough of the negative wave.
Yeah.
Come on, but,
You need it, but you need someone like that.
he should be happy with life, though. He's just survived a horrific, injury, and he just spends the rest of his time moping around, bringing everyone down. Didn't like that.
How un-English.
I do. One mention there, Ollie, that whole idea of the kind of obsession that Seaman tended to have about being cursed.
Bad
and all
luck.
that.
Yeah, that was very good.
No,
yeah.
I mean that comes
Yeah.
across as a strand in the film, really, really well done. But to drag it all back to me. But that's even in the Second World War, you have the same thing. I talk about that in my last book about the U-boat war. They felt the same way very often. If a couple of things went wrong, they'd suddenly feel like they were cursed and that they were not going to make it home and all this sort of thing. So it's absolutely such a sort of a naval tradition of superstition kind of running their lives to a large extent.
I really
I
loved
think that was
that,
really
because the idea of Holland being a Jonah is in the far side of the world, although it resolves itself completely differently. And I love the way they did it in this film, actually, because I love the fact that Stephen was like, Jack, you don't believe in all this, do you? And Jack's
Yeah.
kind of like shiftily kind of going, no.
No,
And then
ridiculous.
the Holland dies, and then they're doing the funeral, and then the wind starts, and Jack's like, Steve, I just thought that was all brilliant. I loved all of that, and I loved Joe Place. Again, a recurring character in the book, and his like hold fast and his misery, and
Yeah, it was very good, very good. I thought the use of Vaughan Williams was quite brilliant.
music.
Absolutely. First, when the death of Worley, when they have to chop and Vaughan Williams. I think Vaughan Williams goes very well with the sea. I think
It's the
and the land.
theme.
And the sky. Who can forget?
Is it his theme on Thomas Tallis?
Yes.
The piece.
Yes, Fantasia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's extraordinary. And what else? Yes. Yeah, and the little things like they get sunburnt when it's all hot, and it's just sort of little touches that is just as I say, speaks to the authenticity. And playing the cricket at the Galapagos Islands, I love that.
Yeah.
Bringing civilization to far.
Yes, civilized the Galapagos Islands.
There's a brilliant set piece in one of the books where Stephen gets the wrong end of playing cricket, and he thinks he's like doing Irish hurling, and he runs with the ball. It's just one of the comedy set pieces. Cricket plays a strong theme in the books,
and I do like his humane response when he's the boy says you've got to carry him, and then he basically says, "Open the cages." It's a nice touch. As a naturalist, maybe others would have just been like, "Go." He made some
I thought
point.
that was brilliant. I think, but we should probably talk about the boys as well, shouldn't we? I mean,
this is the two Maxes.
yeah, the two midshipmen who were there. So I watched this with my kids, and they were like aghast, and they were like, "This can't be real," they're so young. And I was like, "No, this is it. You join the Navy at 11. This is your, you become an officer."
Happier times.
Yeah. So, and it was
I'd have loved to
astonishing.
have been in the Royal Navy at 13.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, funny. So
Yes.
Maturan. So Aubrey and Maturan are obviously the main books, but O'Brien actually wrote two lesser known books about midshipmen. One in Commodore Anson's voyages, and they're brilliant because those are all set in the kind of midshipman's berth. So anybody who can't get enough Patrick O'Brien, I highly recommend those two as well, because being a midshipman in the Navy when you're sort of 14 and you're suddenly your voice hasn't broken and you're supposed to be commanding these men. It's just an extraordinary thing.
Yeah.
And I thought they captured all of that brilliantly in the film.
Yeah,
like,
they did.
the
Absolutely
boys,
right. Yeah,
the
boy with the one arm that has his arm
Yeah.
amputated,
Lord
and then
Blakeney,
he's sort of running the gun batteries. I mean, he's 2 foot tall and squeaky voiced. I mean, it was quite astonishing. That would appear to have been, to those that don't have your knowledge, Antonia, that would have been, you would have said, well, that surely wasn't the case, but obviously it was.
absolutely the case. Yeah,
they were officers in waiting, weren't they?
yeah,
And it was the same in
absolutely.
the army. They had very young drum boys had to help with the wounded in battle.
And
In
I
Yeah,
love
but
the
the
fact
drummer
that
boys weren't officers, were they? They were just.
No, that's right. Yeah. I
it's
think
lovely.
17, probably 16, 17, maybe, in the youngest officer, if that, as an ensign.
Yeah.
It's great that Aubrey's also teaching on board.
Yes.
With sextons and
Yes.
imminent
Very good.
danger, and it was just a quick class.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's do
was really
our categories, our awards.
Okay.
So everyone's been revising for this, I hope. So, right, okay, best performance. Well, it's quite difficult because there is one man who dominates this film. And as Tim quite wisely worked out, that you could probably give Russell Crowe every single award in this. I mean, he really is everywhere. But best performance, does anyone have any advance on Russell Crowe?
Well, if you're doing
the ship.
The Ship, very good.
the film, is it? I've forgotten. Are we doing only one acting award?
No, we can look. There's no hard and fast rules. This is
hard and fast. Okay.
I mean, I thought Max Bennett's was just superb.
Which Max is he? Which midshipman was
The
he?
one who died at the end, the one who didn't.
Yeah, he was really good.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, I thought
and sort of unglamorously.
Yes, quiet competence. I thought the Max Purkis character was okay, slightly annoying.
I thought Hollom was very strong as a character because he was going through the ringer.
He was good, actually. Lee Ingleby.
Hollom, yeah. I thought,
and also I feel like I would have been the Hollom. It's like, slightly ineffectual but well-meaning,
and trying to get in with the boys.
Yeah, exactly. And just shit.
James Darcy, always reliable, isn't he?
Yeah,
I think but Hollom's got actually, it's a nice, quiet, moving end.
Yes, it was
to him.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
As soon as you even though you know what's going to happen, I think you kind of, there's something in the air that the way he says,
something has
you've
to come
always
to
nice
head
to
with
me.
him, there's David Threlfall is just fantastic as the preserved Killick, the chief steward.
He's again a feature in all the books. Everybody loves Killick. He was very good.
I think David Threlfall, who, if you remember, we discussed the Conspiracy.
He's in that, absolutely.
Excellent in that.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
I think the only person I didn't love was Barrett Bondin, who was the Hobbit guy, who was just miscast completely,
he was.
and they
You're
didn't
right.
do much with him. So Bondin's supposed to be kind of big, competent seaman, and that he was just a kind of nothing presence, I thought. But
good
otherwise,
eyes.
He had this is slightly an aggravating way of responding to orders. South by Southwest. It was all a bit. It was not the most authentic seaman acting. And also he's Scottish, and his accent wasn't.
He'd just finished all the Lord of the Rings films, hadn't he? Before he did this,
had he?
I think. Because I think didn't they film all 3 of the Lord of the Rings in one go?
Yeah, it was finished by the time they were doing
Must
this.
have taken them forever.
He was probably just exhausted. He'd just done New Zealand. Now he's on a boat. He's like, Jesus.
I know, it was exhausting watching those Lord of the Rings films. Imagine what it was like to be in them. Right. Okay. So no other. Robert Pugh. He's always fantastic. I wanted to mention him.
Who was he?
Right between the eyes at the end.
Oh yes,
no, he's great.
Oh, Alan.
Alan.
The boatmaster,
Allen.
was he? Is that his name? Was that
Sailing Master?
Yeah. He's a very good. I saw him in a pub in Brighton once, actually, but didn't say hello. Right.
Good story.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks.
Top tail, that one.
Great.
Thank you. Right. Most egregious overacting. Definitely Russell Crowe.
Are we Russell Croweing?
Yeah, I think we have to go best performance Russell Crowe.
Best performance. I'm not going to go. He didn't overact. He was absolutely perfect. I'm not having that. I will go. The guy playing Joe Place, Hold Fast. He was a bit over the top.
Yeah. Do you think so? No.
Yeah. Well, only because I'm not having any. Russell Crowe's brilliant. Paul Bettany was brilliant. I don't want.
Roger,
can I just mention one? Can I mention one though? In my,
I think Max Perkins was a bit overacting a few times. Actually,
I think Russell Crowe's delivery of the always choose the less of
two weevils.
His laugh wasn't that brilliant. He didn't nail the laugh.
Would you have got him to do it again, Tim, if you were there?
It's such a brilliant, but nobody. Okay, it's a brilliant line. I love the less of two weevils line. I use it all the time. It's one of my favourites, so I didn't mind that. Come on, though. Who among us did not feel a patriotic swell when he was like, "Do you want that raggedy ass?"
Oh, I know. I was about to say this. Do you want to see a guillotine in Piccadilly?
You want the children singing the Marseillaise?
Wonderful.
Yes, I agree with you, Antonio. The only problem is he's freaking Australian.
Yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with that. He's acting.
Yeah.
And the opening credits are quite wonderful. You know, oceans are battlefields.
Yeah.
It does say that only the Royal Navy stands before Napoleon. Can the Navy stand?
But it also we're going to get to historical accuracy. That was all a bit stupid as well. Like the idea that Jack stopping privateers in Cape Horn has any impact on
it absolutely does.
Invasion plans. I mean, come on, it's all stupid. Anyway,
I do love the fact, Antonio, that it's you're steadfastly defending everything with this film, all right? But also, it's riddled with this. It is. I think my favourite line, even better than the Piccadilly guillotine thing, which is a horrific image to imagine, isn't it? But England is under threat of invasion, and though we be on the far side of the world, this ship is our home. This ship is England.
Ship is England.
Yes.
Oh, I've got goosebumps, Sonny.
Brilliant.
How good is that? So he wins the award for that.
Yeah.
Glorious. And then with Vaughan Williams as well. Oh my God. He's still my heart. Right.
And imagine if they sung Jerusalem, we would just explode.
Yeah, just exactly.
That would have worked well as well, because William Blake, of course, was writing around the same period. Good point, Roger. Good point.
Yeah, there you go.
Biggest plot flaw. Now, a huge amount of historical accuracy here. I even looked up when the word "fun" was first used, and that was well before. And there was another thing that I thought was incorrect and then wasn't. I was asking Copilot.
The model's got to be in there somewhere.
But these are historical inaccuracies in terms of the plot.
The exclamation mark, when was that first used? That was in the 200 years before as well. If you spotted that and were uncomfortable with the exclamation mark, that had been.
I mean,
well,
the biggest historically inaccurate plot flaw is that the entire plot hinges around this stupid stick insect thing. When actually,
I don't think the plot does.
Ruse de Guerres were a normal
It just
part
gives
of
him an
naval
idea
warfare.
for an attack. It doesn't. It's the whole plot of the film isn't revolved.
Okay, all right. It's the moment where, but it's the beat, isn't it? It's the
I have
moment
one
where
better.
they go
but
from
also
losing to winning.
Yeah, it's the reason why the climax exists, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
But it's not really a flaw. Like, it does all hang together. It's just all a bit silly. That's all.
I think I have a better one.
Go on.
So they go on their little expedition. Maturin and the one-armed child and the big.
You really
guy.
hate him. You've really taken against him.
he's not wrong.
It's his schooling. I can't abide his schooling. Anyway, they walk across, and he says, "Well, we'll just walk to the other side." And they go, "Well, that's got to be 10 miles." And you go, "Yeah, well, we better get going." Is that 10 miles? So that's 10 miles there, 10 miles back. That's 20 miles. That would have taken them minimum 12 hours if they were healthy and hadn't had a gunshot in his chest, in his abdomen. So he's walking 20 miles, having just come through a quite major operation. And then that doesn't include the faffing around collecting plants and animals and stuff like that. So I think that's a major plot flaw. Would have taken them 2 days minimum.
Yeah, I mean, they were tougher in those days, but fair point.
Stephen Maturin is nails. You have to remember he had
he's
he
from
had
Ireland.
literally he just operated on himself.
And we haven't mentioned that either.
What, so he can go and do a 20-mile brisk
of course
walk.
you can.
Yeah, but they did in those days.
Yeah,
No, I'm afraid that is. I think that's a little bit more of a dodgy.
But then go back even 50 or 100 years, and people used to walk 5 miles to school. So I mean.
I'm not saying he couldn't physically have done it. I'm saying he couldn't.
Even with gunshots.
They arrive back and it's dusk. So that suggests to me it took them like 8 because it seems
this is
they
the
set
license
out when
with,
it's broad
with cinema.
daylight. What's that, Tim?
This is the license with cinema, you see, because in the books they probably would have
taken 2 days.
I mean, I don't know if this happened in the books, but they probably would have narrated that it happened in, a more realistic time span. With films, you kind of go. Basically, the device with film is don't worry about that, and just
Well, anyway, I don't think it. I think I raised my eyebrow, but this is the 5th or 6th time I've seen the film, so maybe.
Would he have been able to operate on himself looking in a mirror? Can I just say it's nowhere? It doesn't match the self-operating that De Niro does in Ronin, which is a lot more uncomfortable.
Well, I haven't operated on myself,
but I do like
be able to.
It's in HMS Surprise, which is the 3rd novel in the series that he operates on himself, but it's after a duel that and Patrick O'Brien, it should be said, his research was amazing. So many of his battles, so many of his scenes, so many of his sequences are taken directly from the diaries and the letters and the accounts of the time. So it's perfectly feasible. But yeah, Maturin does do it in the novels.
Well, I think it's incredible skill he displayed there. I wonder who would win in a fight between Jack Aubrey and Richard Sharp.
I would say probably Richard Sharp, because he's got more experience of hand-to-hand, or sword fighting. Most of Jack's expertise.
They'd call him a bastard anyway, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so Richard Sharp's at Trafalgar and he does all right, but he's not great on a ship. So it depends what medium, Ollie, is the bottom line.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, there are lots of little... Because I love the sort of deification of Nelson in this film as well that runs throughout.
Yeah.
It's great.
If I were Aubrey, though, I would really have some harsh words with my fellow seaman who is firing a rifle at a passing albatross.
Yeah, he doesn't get a punishment, does he?
And shoots
Choose the doctor.
The
Shoots
guy.
your best mate.
Yeah.
And he's kind of
So I didn't
doesn't
see
really
you. It's
admonish
like,
him in
what?
any way.
Yeah, and he just kind of says, "Oh, sorry."
It's Chris Larkin, whose mother is Maggie Smith and brother is Toby Stevens, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
just want to
I'm
raise
not sure about that bit.
one thing on accuracy, which struck me watching the film. This is
Well,
not to
we're in that
criticise.
category now.
Yes. Well, you've got the you've got the 11-year-old boy having his arm amputated after the wound had gone bad, right? And then you've also got Maturin being shot in the stomach and operating on himself and then recovering. So I'm a little bit in the same field as you, Ollie, with him walking across the island. I mean, statistically speaking, one of the two of them must have died of sepsis in real life. You know, you don't amputate a limb and generally survive.
I think it was quite normal, wasn't it?
One thing that naval surgeons were really good at was amputating shit.
Right.
Like they were really good at it because they did it all the time.
Okay.
Because your injuries, quite a lot of the injuries from on the ships, as was my understanding, again, I'm a fake historian on this subject. So, a lot of it is to do with the splinters as well, the wood splinters and stuff, and they're massive and they're just gouging holes in your.
It was well done, that I thought.
Yeah. So there are certain. So although it's all very blunt-edged medicine, the things that they're quite good at include taking things off, and the
okay, go on.
the loblolly boy, the Stevens number 2, who is too frightened to do the operation. He's quite an interesting character in the books because one thing Stephen really hates doing is teeth. So that guy Higgins, who is too scared to do the operation on Stephen,
McCabe, who's excellent.
Yeah, he's really good. But the main reason he's on board is to do the teeth because the teeth were a big problem. And they had no anesthetic or anything. So what they would do is like drum really, really loudly to try and like deaden the pain just with noise.
Really?
God.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's
and
terrible.
then pull out the teeth.
Yeah.
But obviously then you would be doing it like with pliers in like 8 goes, and sometimes the teeth would break up and like it's horrific.
Yes, it's very well described in a Sharp book when Harper has to have a tooth out, and they go, "Don't push too hard, otherwise you'll break the tooth, and you won't be able to get it out then."
Right. So that's why Higgins is on there, and that's why he's so useless when it comes to doing Stephen's operation, because he's not a surgeon at all. Yeah. He's a kind of tooth like barbarian.
How was the accuracy or likelihood of the decoy boat?
That's in one of the
tiny
novels.
Little boat.
That's in one of the novels. That's one of Jack's ploys in one of the novels. I can't remember which one. A lot of Jack's career in the novels is based on the real life exploits of a guy called Lord Cochrane, who was a frigate commander who did all sorts of amazing and unlikely
absolute
things.
lunatic.
Complete lunatic, but brilliant naval captain. So loads, as I say, lots of it is rooted in accurate stuff.
Because I don't understand when the decoy goes this way and the French follow, obviously. Surprise comes round, and then the next morning they're behind the French, and they're like, "Ha!" But what I don't understand is how come the French don't just look? Yeah, they're behind us now. Turn around and then charge.
Yeah, you know what? Some of that stuff I felt was not that great done. Like all the stuff about the ships finding each other was kind of nonsense. It was really hard to find each other. You know, and it was all kind of, I mean, O'Brien does it brilliantly. Like it's sort of 90% luck and 10% judgment, whether or not you can sail apart from each other in the darkness and then come back upon each other in the right place to have the weather gauge the next morning. I mean, it's not, you can guess and you can make educated sort of guesses, but yeah, all of that was like, so the actual raft bit, yes. The kind of sneaking round the back. I mean, it depends on the wind. It depends on them where the French go. It depends on so many factors. Like I that was probably a bit nonsense. But like right at the beginning, actually, there's a kind of nonsense element of that, because the idea is, the conceit is supposed to be that they've gone to the kind of coast of Brazil and the Acheron has found them. Oh, how can they have found us? Oh, well, they've got their intelligence too. Well, what? So you're supposed to think that some intelligence agent in France has said this is where this ship is going to be in 2 months' time, to the letter, without any foreknowledge of wind, tide, or I mean, there's that bit again. It's complete nonsense, but it's filmic nonsense, right? So again, it's the Tim, to your point of me both hating and loving it. I absolutely love it for authenticity, for feeling, for character, for the, you know, for the dialogue, for the language, for everything. But the bits that they've made up to make it into a successful film are just a bit silly. Like that.
Well,
so no, by no means a perfect film, unlike Saving Private Ryan.
No, a listener had Roger up for that, quite rightly. But we did see a 7-barrel gun in this as well, which I was pleased to see.
Right, Barrett Bondon. No, who had the?
I don't know who was holding it, but it was in the final battle scene when the cowardly French pretended to be dead, and then they all got up and he fired the 7-barrel gun.
Right. Yeah. Cowardly French.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We haven't
wonderful.
really bashed the French enough, I think, in this podcast.
We have. We've let them off
maybe
lightly.
we need to amp that up a bit in future podcasts.
Right. Okay. So, what if Tarantino had made it?
Well, he would have absolutely ruined it for one point. So.
Well, it would have. He would have invented even more bollocks. Yeah, he would have rewritten. Well, I mean, actually, because it's sort of fictional anyway. But
more blood.
I don't know. Probably more blood. Yeah,
yeah.
You probably would have seen the arm or the. Actually, but the thing is that a lot of the time he doesn't necessarily show you the actual violence. It's a lot of the time
it's
implied,
suggested a lot, isn't it?
But you would have had the odd, the odd head explode when the cannon fire happens or something.
You might have had a lot more like quite sort of nasty sex scenes below deck, wouldn't you, between the men? If it was Tarantino.
You did just say that out loud, Antonio. Just
but you would. Like there'd be like.
Oh, you mean like the scene in Pulp Fiction, the rape scene?
Yeah, there'd be like a gimp somewhere. There'd be
maybe.
Those little boys, those nice little midshipmen would be getting.
Jesus Christ!
I was reading somewhere there's quite a bit of homosexuality in the novels. Is that right or is that wrong?
There is some homosexuality in the novels. Yeah, not very much, but there is some.
I'm just trying to figure out which Tarantino films you've seen that I haven't.
No, I was thinking of the gimpy thing with the thingy.
Pulp Fiction.
There's a brilliant bit in in one of them as well, where in one of the novels where a seaman gets caught having, they have all the animals on board, which is really good and lovely and authentic. In one of
bloody cow down there.
Yeah, so in one of the novels, one of the seamen is reported by one mess crew for having sex with a goat, right? So then they flog the man and kill the goat, but
they make right round.
Yeah, but they make the mess crew that informed on the guy eat the goats because and that's all very funny.
Yeah, but
I think that he would have enhanced. You would have seen scenes in the French ship, I think. And one of them would have been played by Christoph Waltz, and there would have been a long, tense dialogue scene of something,
and they would have been having relations with a goat.
Yeah,
which would have been more historically accurate. Right.
There you go. The French have just got it. There you go.
That's the last French listener who's turned off. Okay, right. So just before we go to who won the film, I wanted to bring up one particular thing is that, and this is just, it occurred to me whilst watching it and going around the boat, because one thing I would say was a little bit confusing as to where you were. Once you went down below deck, it was quite confusing as to where you were, unless you were in the captain's cabin, playing the violin. And there's a very good, I would recommend this for listeners who are interested in computer games. a very good game that's very inexpensive, and I played it on the PlayStation, and it's called The Return of the Obra Dinn. And it is made by a legendary games designer called Lucas Pope. And really, it's all about a ship that appears in port in about 1801. And it is completely unmanned, and it's a mystery. And you're an insurance agent. You have to go on and find out what happens. And the ship is very similar to The Surprise. And you get to go in to the entire ship. And the graphics are really basic. But anyone who wants to sort of explore this a bit further, I would highly recommend the game. It's, as I said, very basic, and the game is cheap, but it's highly addictive, and it's a mystery and set in the 1800s on a boat, so it's wonderful.
Or you could read the books.
Or you could read the books.
Or go to Portsmouth Historic Dockyard. I mean,
Yeah,
you could
which
do
is
that
Go
as
and
well.
see the Victory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you could do. Actually, I tried to go and see.
For all our American listeners, just go to Portsmouth.
I went Portsmouth. I went to see the Victory. I went to look into going to see the Victory over, between that betwixtmas, that kind of dead zone after Christmas.
Betwixtmas and athwartships. We've lost half the world now.
Yeah, and it's very expensive. At the moment, it's like 50 quid a head.
It's so worth it though, Ollie. Have you not done it?
Yeah. It
It's
is.
amazing.
But there were a whole load of us, and we're looking at like 400-500 quid's worth of.
And there's HMS Warrior as well, which is great.
Where's
Yeah.
Victory at the moment?
It's in Portsmouth.
Portsmouth
Harbour.
as well.
Yeah, there's a historic dockyard, and it's so cool. It's got so many ships. Oh my gosh, Tim, it's amazing. Pay all the money. I mean,
and it's beautifully kept, actually, isn't the Victory? It's still got that sort of the yellow and black, so they look like wasps on the ocean, don't they? They're wonderful.
I mean, I know this is my kind of one of my periods that I love, but honestly, visiting the Victory is one of the most emotional things I've ever done. It's absolutely mind-bogglingly wonderful.
I went when I was a child, so I should go when I'm an adult. Yeah.
Take that hat, Ollie. I love that.
I could. Yes. Right. So now, who won the film?
Can I make a?
I think Peter Weir. Over the years, I would say Peter Weir, but Roger, go for it.
Patrick O'Brien, surely.
Like it.
Did this clever. Not? I mean, I know he was big. I mean, Antonio will know this. I know he was big, and he'd written a lot, and he died in 2000 or something. So before this came out, but this must have brought a whole new tranche of readers.
So the Patrick O'Brien estate, more accurately.
Yes, all right. Yeah, Patrick O'Brien's estate won. But is that not an argument? I mean, that must have brought millions more readers to his books.
Yeah. I mean, I would sort of take that on and actually say that the winners were the people who loved the books, of whom there are a legion. They're very, passionate about it. And I think, like me, probably lots of them were very nervous about there being a film. But actually, the film is a glorious and beautiful addition. I mean, it doesn't replace, but it's a lovely thing. And the books are, I mean, if I can persuade one person. The problem with the books, can I just say to anybody who's thinking about reading them, they're a bit daunting because there's 20 of them, right? Is that the first one is the weakest and the most full of naval jargon. So lots of people read the first one, think that was all right. I don't get what all the fuss is about. Then they read the second one, Post Captain, and they're like, okay, I sort of get it. I still don't quite understand why everybody's making such fuss. And then they read HMS Surprise, the third one, and by that time they are so invested, it takes over their life, and they understand that they've never really read anything good before. So that is all.
Could you go straight into HMS Surprise?
No. I mean, not unless you're
just start from the beginning. Just start from the beginning.
Always.
Not unless you're a barbarian.
Stop asking annoying questions.
I think Roger's got a good point, because the thing is that the thing with me, Ollie, like we did with Saving Private Ryan. You say the name of the film and you immediately go, "Oh, Steven Spielberg is just amazing." The way he did that. I wouldn't necessarily think that you say Master and Commander and you go, Peter Weir. Oh, Peter Weir. I think he's brilliant. He handles it absolutely brilliantly, and he was hired to do it because he's an extraordinarily competent director and he's made some great films. But when you think Peter Weir, I think of Gallipoli or, Picnic at Hanging Rock, something, or The Bounty, and give away that I'm not knowledgeable at all in cinema. But whereas this is, I actually think Roger's got a point, because it's for the people who don't know about the film, they'll go, okay, well, what's this Master and Commander? For the people who really know about the film, it's because more likely than not, am I right, Antonia, that they're probably hardened book lovers. That's why maybe it didn't do brilliantly in the cinema, like you were saying earlier. Or people who are just obsessed with Russell Crowe.
So Patrick O'Brien.
Yeah.
Or the estate of Patrick O'Brien.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, this has been absolutely glorious. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention before we set sail for home?
Very good, Ollie.
Thank you.
I think Antonia could speak for forever on this, frankly.
I mean, I would love Antonia to return.
It's been a stunning debut.
Episode, but this is the only film Antonia has seen.
Yeah, that's true too. That is also really true.
Watch films. I just watch this one over and over again.
We can do this like on a kind of 6-monthly basis.
I do feel like we could talk for another hour about it at least. So maybe we do get you back on in a few months' time. Brilliant. Or a few, So what should we do next?
Wow.
Titanic.
We stick with the nautical elements.
Wow.
Well, let's do Titanic then. I like it.
I have not actually seen Titanic.
What?
What?
I've never seen it.
I've seen Titanic.
I've never seen
Antonia's seen it.
I've never seen it.
Okay, we've got to do Titanic then. All right.
Will you let me know if Roger cries?
Well, we won't be watching it with him, and so then we'll have to rely on him being honest.
I
was crying at the end of Master and Commander just this morning when Max dies.
I cried too, and all my kids took the piss out of me for about half an hour.
It's awful when he dies. I couldn't believe it. Brilliant acting from Max Bennett, who quit acting. He wasn't interested.
Really?
Had a look at that and thought, it's not for me.
Silly old business anyway.
He became a journalist.
Well, got a proper job.
Yeah. He's probably thought the script is ridiculous. This is so stupid.
Yeah, he was like, what's this crap with the stick insect? I don't do this again.
Well, maybe he won the film.
Yeah.
He was pretty good.
Stick insect.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stick insect. The stick insect won the Napoleonic Wars based on this film.
That's a very good point. Naturalism.
Okay, well, Antonia, thank you so much for coming on.
No, I loved it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Tim,
Antonia.
thank you, as ever. Roger, as ever, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
And to the listeners, next time we'll do Titanic.
Bring it on.
Bye.
Bye.
We've come to the end of this club meeting, so thank you for listening. If you want to get in touch about club benefits, please do, either by email or on X or Instagram. Links are in the show notes. I've also included my Substack link so members can read articles I've written on various matters that may be of interest. The History Book Club is written and presented by me, Oliver Webb-Carter. Music is by listener Chat DMZ. Episodes continue next week and every week, so please do join, subscribe, and if you can provide the club with a 5-star rating, we would be delighted. In the meantime, I thank you again, and now I have to usher members out into the real world. Until next time.
I was